Hello, everyone, and welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and this is a Saturday morning live stream, so we'll give a little bit of time for people to slowly trickle in. I hope you guys are all having an amazing and wonderful Saturday. Obviously, so much going on in the royal sphere this week. Of course, we have Catherine and William doing an engagement or a series of engagements over a 2-day period in Scotland in the Isles of Mull and Iona. So they did a couple of nature things. We also had Princess Charlotte's 10th birthday where she's looking so much like her daddy. And we have King Charles and Camilla are coming to Canada. So if you are in Canada, the 26th and 27th, I believe, is when they will be there. So they will be there to open Parliament. So pretty big deal there. We also have, let's see. Oh, Queen Mary did a couple of engagements. We also have stuff going on. Queen Letizia is down in Panama to meet her daughter on her ship. So lots going on. But of course, the big breaking crazy thing is Harry and his court case loss. That, of course, broke yesterday. And in addition to that, we have an interview with the BBC. Now, while initially, when I was just kind of doing my initial video, we only had the 3-minute clip of the interview. The whole thing is more 20 plus minutes. And so I thought, well, today for this morning, maybe it might be a good idea to go over and watch that, because that is, oh my gosh, guys, there's so many interesting things. And you can really tell he really wanted this case, in part because he does not want to pay for his security anymore. And he's saying such weird things like, and he said this before, like, oh, the security case is why my father is not speaking to me. And I'm like, no, Harry, that's not it. That's not it. Like, he sort of acknowledges, I think, finally, what a stupid idea his book was, because he goes, well, I know they'll never forgive me for the book. And I was like, yeah, duh. Like, is that just dawning on you now? So lots of interesting things, but we've got I think it's so worthy of going over it again, or the full interview, because I only had that 3-minute section. And there's so many good bits in there, especially of like, he said essentially, if I remember correctly, how he basically said it was that when the UK stripped his security, it told other countries that they did not have to pay for his security. That's kind of what he implied. Like, basically saying, oh, well, they're not paying for my security more. Well, now other countries aren't going to pay for my security either. It's like, dude, nobody wants to pay for your security. Like this weird obsession he has with telling all of us how much I think he thinks we all think about this or all are consumed by it. It's like, no, we don't care, Harry. But we do have a fur baby who wants to say hello. Say good morning to Miss Pippa, everyone. How are you doing, baby girl? Were you naughty? Yeah. Am I frozen? Oh, no. Yes, there is Pippa. There is Pippa P. She's my sweet little girl this morning. We are so, having a good morning. We had an upset tummy earlier this week, but now we're fine. We are fine. Yeah. Cuddles. Yeah, she's the sweetest. Although she doesn't want to settle. I would love to have her lay down and settle and just sleep on my lap, but she just doesn't want to do that. She kind of, gets finicky and gets around and stuff. Lizzie says, Miss Pippa, was she naughty? She might have been naughty. We shall see. Little dogs, man. Little dogs. I love her size. It's so great, but at the same time, not as good as big dogs are at holding things. Yeah, it's a thing. So anyways, guys, just saying hello. We have Carol here, Water 8604. We have Creative Chaosify. We have Deborah Matthews from Alabama. We got Faith and Wendy and Sarah here from Limerick, Ireland. Babette. And we have DG66. H will never be back in the royal fold no matter how much he wants. Royals can't trust his big mouth. Simply that. So true. We have Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice. Yeah. Says, good morning, everyone. Still can't believe yesterday's verdict in the BBC interview that was all ready to roll out as soon as the verdict was read. Harry knew the verdict and was ready to strike. So yes, just as an FYI, because I believe I saw this on Thursday on social media, that Harry and his team were informed the day before the announcement was officially made public. So that was something that was already arranged. So he already knew the verdict on Thursday. So he definitely wanted to arrange an interview on Friday. Now, to be fair to him, not saying this is smart, but to be fair, I can understand because this is sort of his final hurrah. It sounds like he's giving up at this point. Like he's not going to go through the court system anymore. He's going to try to advocate through his father, through the government. Like anybody gives a flip, Harry. Like anybody gives a flip about this. And he's sort of kind of throwing things out there. And he is, what is he doing? He's throwing things out there. And so he wanted to get his story inside out. So I understand that perspective. Not saying it's smart, not saying he helped himself, but I understand the perspective. So let's see, we got Maureen here, and then we have a Koala Blues. We got Peggy and Lady Aviator. And he said, thank goodness Harry lost. Yes, I agree with that. We have D, just simple D, Liz E. We have Bectopia. I guess I must have confused people. I'm sorry. XO Dominion. I'm glad Harry lost his court appeal, but wish they would have moved outside the US at this point. So, yeah, Water says at 10 a.m. everything. This is an time error. It has happened before. Yes, it has. I guess it might have been when I set it up. I must have set it up wrong. Let me see, guys, real quick if I can. I'm live now. It is what it is. So sorry. Yep, that was me. That was me. 10 a.m. Okay, there we go. So I'm in the back end changing it real quick. See if maybe because I changed the time, maybe a couple other people are made aware that there's a live stream on right now. Just in case we miss people. So guys, so many people here already. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I just again feel like it would be nice to enjoy the misery together and have the outrage together and see Harry's interview in full. Because oh man, is he just not? Yeah, he's not there. He's not like he just doesn't get it. I think I can do even. Can I do this? There we go. He totally doesn't get it. He doesn't get any of it at all. It's so difficult. And so Stephanie says here, YouTube in my region is having trouble with buffering and live streams over the past few days, unfortunately. We have to watch this one a replay. So this is just the live streams that buffer. That's annoying. I'm sorry. That does happen. Like tech issues happen, of course. So it's one of those things. All right, guys. So we will give a little bit here to see if anybody else is coming in. And Andrea says, so happy Germany is a republic and we don't have royal freeloaders to feed. Now, I will say royals like have a very official, important duty. And I think it's really important what they do. But Harry's sort of arrogance and flippancy about what other people want to do in regards to him does no one any favors, doesn't do him any favors. He just looks like an egotistical, deluded, like brat. He just looks like that. And he's just too dim to understand that. He's too dim to understand that. Rebecca asks here, please answer. I'm so curious. What is to stop them from using HRH titles even if they're stripped? How does this stop them from writing it on cards and stationaries? Are there any legal ramifications? No. But it just shows a disdain for the memory of the queen and what they agreed to. Yeah. So that's just something to keep in mind. And it goes to show, okay, what else are they doing they shouldn't be doing? And then we also have DS. Brittany, can we first start by saying Princess Charlotte is precious in her birthday pictures? Was she out hunting? Thanks to Harry and Meghan, I get the proper recognition it deserved. Yeah, so I mentioned it when I first started her birthday picture. Now, I don't think she was probably hunting. I mean, she might have been. Nothing wrong with that. She was probably just out with her parents going and doing some sort of hike or something. But it's not that, again, she doesn't get the recognition. I know everybody wants to do little competitions and stuff like that. But, sometimes things just clash. You can't handle it. It's like if somebody died on your birthday, you like somebody famous, you can't totally you can't totally plan that. And yes, I know some people will say, well, Harry shouldn't have done his interview on her birthday, but it was when the you know, the whole, like, the decision had already been made. Harry wanted to get his side out, and, it makes sense to do it on the same day. Like, just generally, this would have happened this way either way, most likely. And that doesn't take away anything from her birthday at home. And I think people just kind of, again, the whole competition thing that's even within people who are Harry and Meghan fans just get I see it a lot. And it's not that she doesn't get a recognition. Of course she will, but things happen. Again, her birthday fell right before her grandfather's coronation just a couple of years ago. So there was just a lot of lead up to that. So her birthday then probably got overshadowed too. It's just going to happen. So can't just expect kind of like when you're an adult and you're like, well, I should always have my birthday off. It's just not how that works. So, anyways, let's go back and start listening to Prince Harry's little diatribe and tantrum because it's just going to be so good. So good. It's always fun to watch chaos with friends. So,
been speaking to our correspondent, Neda Torfik, and we can bring you that extended interview now.
So, they did actually talk to the woman who did the interview, and she said that Harry was, very nice, didn't come with an entourage when he was there. And he told his side. She could tell there was emotion behind it. But there was a couple things where she was just like, well, he did X. And it's like, but like, you got to push a bit more. This wasn't a bad interview by any means. I thought it was actually pretty good. But let's again begin.
But obviously pretty gutted about the decision. We thought it was going to go our way. But it certainly is proven that there was no way to win this through the courts.
Because he didn't have a case. Just because what Harry, tomorrow says Harry takes no responsibility for anything. And the other thing here is that, Evelyn heard Pippa too. Yeah, she's yelling at the neighbors. But I think what we see here too is that Harry just can't seem to understand that just because you don't like something does not mean you have a legal case. Just because, like, there are so many things you wish, like, you wish you could ticket people who are going too slow in the left lane of the highway, but that's just not life. That's just not life. And so it's just like he thinks that just because, and the court says this, you have a grievance, but that doesn't make it a legal argument. And the Ravik, they made a decision based on the extraordinary circumstances of Harry and Meghan quitting the monarchy. So they're the ones who initiated this change in status, not Ravik. Ravik was responding to what they did. So this is just really dumb. It's just dumb on Harry's part. He just sort of looks like a nincompoop trying to make these arguments. It's just, it's just so bad.
Wish someone had told me that beforehand.
Everybody did, Skull. Like, we all did. Like, that's crazy. Oh, we have Diana. Gave a super chat. Thank you so much. Unpopular opinion. It wasn't as bad despite whining. He first time admitted the RF are upset with him for the book and many other things. Agreed. This was the first time that maybe, just maybe in his mind, it's starting to click that he really takes people off. Like, it's like he's starting, I think, to live with a level of regret. And I think that'll only continue to grow. And yeah, it's just so obvious where that is. And so he is just like, he's kind of getting there and he's kind of like, they didn't like that. Like, it's starting to slowly click and register with him. So 100% agree. And I do think it is good, at least for him to admit that doing Spare was incredibly, like, he doesn't say that, but he says, my family will never forgive me for my book. Yeah, no duh, Harry. Because we've heard reports before that he just kind of walks around and goes, oh, why doesn't nobody like me? Like, he sort of is not there in that way. So, and just real quickly too, we have Kel Cal here, Ollie Bear. Ooh, Esther Louisa May. Harry should have known that leaving the UK, he would forfeit many of his privileges. You would think he would know that. You would think. Puma says, I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's Sela. I'm not going to try. Pippa Sparking said she doesn't agree with Harry. She does not. She's showing her dislike for him in her barks. She would bark at him if he was in our neighborhood and he wasn't supposed to be there. But she does that to everybody. So let's keep going. And again, we got to stop about every 15 seconds for copyright reasons. But again, I think this is probably good to go over in full. So I kind of debated doing a full video, but I thought, you know what, it's Saturday. Everybody sort of wants to react. It's nice to, see everybody's react, and we can all, be miserable together. Aria says you should read Harry's statement. I think he was very angry at the palace's response. Yeah, I did read his statement too. He very much repeats in that statement what he said here. There's actually not that much difference. I mean, even some of the wording is the same. So I thought that was sort of interesting. But yeah, the palace was like, they went through the legal process. There's no case here, Harry. There's no case. And he just seems to think in his deluded mind, we are all as obsessed with his security as he is and his family as he is. And we're really not, buddy. We're really not.
Yeah, the decision has been a surprise as well as not a surprise.
Okay, he finish a sentence, please. It's like, ugh. So I know it's sort of, that's sort of what happens in interviews. I get it, and it's sort of emotional interview, but you should have a better case. Oh, that's what she said. She said he, tried to lay out his arguments, and I was like, but his arguments were lame. Like, push back against the nonsense a little bit.
The time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely.
You're obviously.
They would be perfectly fine, Harry. There's nothing wrong with you taking your family back to UK. Again, this fantasy delusion that they have about them being at such risk, I think is really overblown in their heads. It's really overblown. And some of the negativity that he and his wife attract are their own creation. So they are going to have probably increased security because of their stupidity. So I don't understand why anybody has to pay for their stupid. That's just my thought. We got Tanya Green here. Good morning, Brittany and all. Where does Brittany go from here? His wanting reconciliation is at odds with his accusations against his family. He seems to think the RF want him harmed. Yeah, it's like he keeps going, all I want is safety. All I want is safety. But the royal family can't intercede on his behalf with the government for like he's of no benefit to them anymore. He was a benefit while he was a working royal, and he's not like a politician. He tries to compare himself to politicians later, but politicians make decisions that impact a nation both nationally and globally. So this is why presidents of the United States get security for the rest of their lives, and because they make decisions about who to bomb, who to target. They're making deals with Russia and all these sorts of things. And so they because of all the things that they do, they inherit a level of risk. And politicians in the UK, the same thing. If you make the decision to send soldiers out to war, yeah, you are going to have people who are not so happy with you. Harry literally sat in a bunker, played video games for the most part, and cut ribbons. That's not the same thing, Harry. That's not the same thing. He seems to think it is. But yeah, he wants to regain this relationship, but I think it's largely sailed at this point. It's kind of almost a little too little too late for him to fully kind of walk back everything he's done. So that's just good to establish here in his little fantasy lands.
Very deeply affected by this. What memories, experiences had you hoped your children, Archie and Lilibet, would have had that you think they won't be able to now with this decision?
It has nothing. He's the one making the decisions. He's the parent. He's the one who's ensuring that they don't get to have a relationship with their family. It's him. It's not them. It's him.
Well, for a start, the only time that I've come back to the UK is sadly for funerals or court cases.
Which is his decision. Nobody's preventing him from doing anything else.
The odd charitable function where I can in between that. I put myself at risk for that, but I will continue on with a life of.
So he's not at risk. This his idea of risk though is paparazzi like getting his picture. That's the thing. Paparazzi getting your picture, Harry. That is not a risk that comes with the territory of being a celebrity. You are a celebrity. All right, we do have Dr. M, who has been a member for a month. He's caught up in the shared fantasy Meghan created. Yes. I mean, he thinks he's slaying dragons. Like, he said something that stupid at one point. And this just continues that, and it's just not healthy for him. Melissa J said, I don't think it's about safety. It's about perception of his own importance. Everything is personal to him. Yes, I would agree with that too. And he doesn't want to be like followed by the paparazzi. But when it comes to the life that he has now, like, that's something he inherited. Like, that's not going to go away. It's just, that is his life now. That's the life he and his wife chose. I don't know how to help him understand that. It would be very good to like have somebody like really shove that in his face, going, this is your life. He just doesn't seem to get it. He just does not seem to get it. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. And we do have as well, Peggy Spungen gave a super chat. Thank you so much. Do you think that if he didn't mention his kill count and spare, he wouldn't be so obsessed with his security? That stupidity is on him and he should take ownership of that. What are your thoughts? So yeah, I 100% agree. I don't know where all the lines are drawn, but if like he gets a reaction from the Taliban or Al Qaeda, and I honestly think he was battling, like, it was the Taliban or aspects of the Taliban in Afghanistan. I don't even think it was that much Al Qaeda. Honestly, I don't think they care. Why would they care about him? Like, seriously, why would they care? They don't. They don't. Like, sure, maybe I'm sure there's a lot of chatter about different people around, like, but none of it is probably not a lot of it is probably serious. I don't think his was serious. I'm sorry. I just don't. He claims to have evidence of that. I don't believe it. Don't believe it. Maybe it was just somebody shooting off online. But like, why do they care about him? It's just not that. And because he mentioned his kill count, his alleged kill count, we have no clue if that is even real. To be quite honest, like, the more I watch him with Invictus, the more I'm convinced he's like conflating his military service with theirs, and doesn't realize how much of a cushy time he had on the front line, like on the front lines. And I use that term loosely. I think he spent a lot of time in his bunker. He was protected by the Gurkhas or Gurkhas from like Nepal, like a specially trained unit that was there just to protect him. So he basically got it was almost like, they had those camps, like experience camps for adults. That's what Harry got when it comes to combat. He got like an experience camp. So he was there technically, but he didn't do that much. I really doubt they had him going off and doing that much, but he has inflated that in his own mind at this point. And I don't think has a humility about it, which I think is a turnoff. And if he mentioned his kill count, and if that increased his risk, that's on you. Nobody should pay for your stupid. If you are going to be stupid, you have to deal with that stupid. Don't expect other people to pay for it, Harry. That's a surefire way to get people really frustrated with you. And people are, and he's just exacerbating it. And it's just insane. So we do have DizFan here as well. Do you think that the photo leak of Meghan using HRH title, do you think that was pre-planned with the court case outcome? Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that this week. So when it comes to that, I honestly think, now this is my opinion. Now there's a couple ways, again, this could go. Number one is that it was purposeful because Meghan wanted to rage bait. I don't think that's totally the case. She wants the attention, but she wants positive attention, guys. She hates the negative attention, which is why she's constantly trying to battle it with positive, fluffy stories, because she's obsessed with trying to get positive attention. She just wants endless positive articles about herself. Like, she cares little about anything else. So the other option is that Jamie had final say on the cut, which is possible. Jamie has a lot more money than Meghan does. And Jamie included it and Meghan didn't know. The other possibility, which I think is more correct, is that Meghan did know it was going to be in there, but sort of forgot that could be a big issue, that could be a big boo-boo, or just was like, well, I'm using it privately. I'm not violating the agreement. And, between this and her husband's kind of stupid stunt in the interview, like, I think there's going to be increasing calls to just like let it go, strip him of the title, place in the line of succession, just be done with it. If Harry's so worried about his security, I said it in a video, it's true. And I think I wrote it on X too. There's a simple solution for this, Harry. If you're so worried about your security, just renounce your titles and place in line of succession, and bada bing, bada boom, you're safe. If connection to your family is your big problem here, is actually an easy way to fix that. There's an easy way to fix that. But again, he doesn't really want to make the actual full steps to removing his titles because he's still obsessed with them and he desperately needs them. So anyways, thank you so much here, Dizfan, for the super chat. And hold on, so History Laura says, as a Brit and a monarchist, I think Harry's a disgrace. He ruined the last years of his beloved grandparents and ruined his father's chances of having a meaningful relationship with his children. Exactly. Harry can't whine on TV about his father missing out on relationship with his kids when Harry won't bring them to see his father. You can't whine, Harry. It's on you. It is on you. Okay. So let's keep going.
Public service. So I will always support the charities and the people that mean so much to me.
So this idea that he's always about public service is just total BS.
I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point.
That's perfectly fine with her, Harry. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't care about your family. Again, I said this in the video, but it's worth repeating. She doesn't care about his family. She doesn't care about him. She doesn't care about his children's, like, their relationship with the monarchy. She only just wants the titles. She only wanted his title and money. If he's not aware of that at this point, then he's a fool. And he is.
The things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done.
There's a lot of people who have done bad things. Like Harry, you know, he just lives in a world of grievances. And I think part of his misery is that he doesn't understand he's at the root cause of most of it. That's a huge chunk of his misery. So, Ms. Nishu, can you explain why he wants security different from the security already in place? So here's the thing. And he says this, and I don't know if I totally agree with this, or I think he's not representing things correctly. And so if he comes to the UK and it's for an official event, let's say Trooping the Color, the coronation, something like that, he will get security like other members of his family because it's a big event, a lot of attention on the monarchy, those sorts of things. So that's totally fine. But then we get to, like, when he comes on other times. If he has a trip planned to the UK, he can call the Home Office or whatever, tell them his plans. Or actually, I think he has to technically go through the palace. He tells the palace his plans. They give it up to Revik and the appropriate people. They do a risk evaluation. And if they deem it necessary for him to get a level of security, he will get it. If they don't, he doesn't. So he won't get it, like what he wants. And somebody mentioned here, you know, he wants security with guns, Debbie says, but he also wants security with, oh goodness gracious, he wants like intelligence, and he also wants like his security people to have guns. And like one of the things he kind of whined and complained about was a paparazzi hanging out at an event he did. And it's like, dude, that's not rising to the level of, you know, you needing security. That's just called living the life of a celebrity. All they want is a picture. And like, I think, again, Harry and Meghan conflate everything with this grand threat rather than seeing different silos. There's people who don't like you and just want to complain online. And that's probably the majority of people. There are some people who, yes, maybe are deemed a threat worthy, but it is a small minority. And the level of, let's say, hate they get online is mostly a creation of like their own creation. So again, it's almost offensive the way Harry and Meghan sort of play it as if we are all like, just because I'm a critic of them, that I get lumped into this broader, you know, kind of scary dragon of security that Harry and Meghan are claiming to fight against. When it's just like, I don't give two flips about them. I just do think that they are doing things that damage his family, damage the monarchy, all these sorts of things. And so I think I have the right to talk about it. But he doesn't like that, and she doesn't like that. And as an example, I went to the courthouse and just took pictures of him like every other photographer there because that's all there is. There's nothing bigger there. And for the vast majority of people complaining online about them, that's all there is. Again, this boogeyman him and his wife are trying to create is an object of their like own imaginations. There are small minorities, like infinitely small minorities of people who might actually be worthy of real concern. And I think that's a problem too. If Harry sees everybody as the enemy, like how can you provide security for him as like the UK? Because you're like, dude, that's not a problem. Like I can't provide security for you because you're chasing ghosts. I think that that's part of it too. Because it would be hard to like, you got to think too. And again, this is something to remind him, Harry, the only people who are making money off of this are your legal teams and your security teams. They can like it behooves them financially. This is just my opinion, so take it for what you wish. It behooves them to actually inflame his sense of paranoia. And maybe the Brits are just going, hey, you know, the risk here is sort of much smaller than you think it is, Harry. And I think that's something important to keep in mind. And we got Chris here as well. Made it to a live been member for 20 months. They can protect themselves by turning off their PR machine. They can get protection with 28 days notice to the UK. Exactly. They just need to give 28 days notice. If there is an actual risk, they will get security. If not, they're on their own. And I think that's perfectly fine. This happens with the rest of his family too. What happened, guys, here is we've been following the other royals. Like this was always going to happen. And there's actually an interview I need to get to, guys, of Princess Madeline talking about how the monarchy decided to downsize, that gave her more opportunities and all these sorts of things. And this is where Europe is going, is downsizing. This was always going to happen to Harry, guys. This was always going to happen. He just sped up the inevitable. But he seems to desperately think he is more important than he is. Even all the Queen's children did not get full-time security. That he thinks he needs it is crazy. It shows a deluded sense of egotism. He's so egotistical on this. It's like the level of hubris, and we'll see more of this in the interview. The level of hubris here, guys, is insane. It's just insane. So, hi, Chris. Hoping to make it for Princess Ian's christening, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping to make it to Sweden for that. We'll see if that happens. Diz fan says, did he lose anything as of yesterday? Do we still here in the States have to pay for his security due to his IDP status? Have we always? No, we've never paid for his security. Unless they were still working royals. So like, for example, when Meghan was still technically a working royal, we augmented her security in New York City for her like ostentatious, ridiculous baby shower. We 100% did. So I like that's 100% the case. But since they left the royal family, that was like the big thing, is that they stripped them of that. And they're like, because the Canadian government, in addition to the UK government, was doing their security when they were in Canada. And the UK is like, we can't pay for this. And Canada's like, we don't want to pay for this. Nobody wants to pay for this for somebody who's living an exclusively private life and just out using their connection to famous people for like gain. Like, you know, Taylor Swift doesn't have security like this. And when she goes to the UK, and I would think there's a lot more people interested in her than Harry. No offense to him. All right, we have Cal, who gave a super chat as well. Thank you. Do you think it is odd that a makeup creator, the IT co-founder or IT, that they would then go on to a podcast without cough makeup? Meghan probably suggested it. Yeah, Meghan suggested it. Again, she's really trying to sell, and I wish I mentioned this more, sell authenticity. But just showing up makeup free when you're clearly probably wearing makeup is not really authentic. And it's not really authentic when you're not, you know, like truths are not coming out of your mouth, lies are. That's not, way to do it. So that's just kind of there. We have Lady Aviator. Harry unfortunately inherited Diana's mental illness. Her bulimia while pregnant also likely impacted his development. He is definitely unstable. I do think he definitely did inherit some of her mental health issues. I do 100% believe that. And he just does not sound well or like connected to reality on here. Creative Chaosify says, this is what happens when an adult man is unemployed. He just sits there paranoid, seeing conspiracies everywhere. Get a job. Yes, I agree. He needs a job. He needs purpose. And he decided to go with his wife into a world that has nothing to do with them. So it's just bad. And DS, thank you so much for the super chat. Is it just me, or can you all not stand Jamie Kern Lima's voice too? Let's talk like a big girl. So annoying. Yeah, and she kind of was weird. I love how somebody described her as a Buddha, because she's just sitting there smiling. The same smile. It's like, should all take like uppers or something before you did this, or like anxiety pills to like mellow out or something. It was just really weird. It was so weird. So weird. So Gretchen the first asks, is a good question, Brittany. And was it Princess Madeline who lived in Florida? Does she have any security while living in the US? I can't imagine the cost and precedence of countries paying for minor royals everywhere. Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, I don't think she did. She might have had it more when she was in New York City, maybe. But I don't think in Florida she did. I think because she lived mostly an anonymous life, like I don't think she had to deal with any of that. Could her husband have paid for them to have a level of security? Sure. I don't think she wanted it though. I think she enjoys her privacy. I don't really even think she has security in Sweden unless she's undertaking official events or something like that, which makes sense. Again, if you are a royal on an official engagement, I do think you need a level of security, just because, you know, there are people there and it's a public event, public space. It's a good idea to have, you know, a security presence there. But beyond that, I don't think she did when she was in Florida. Don't think she did. Don't think the Greek royals do when they're here. Obviously, they don't have the Greek royals don't have, you know, a crown anymore. So that's the thing too. All right, let's get back to it.
So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do. And I think it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
I don't think he cares that much about the UK. And I was like, I have no sympathy for him. Again, zero sympathy. Zero sympathy.
You know?
And as you say, you've gone back several times during this years-long battle. What about the security arrangements that were in place made you feel it would be unsafe for you and your family?
So it's a good question. She's asking good questions. Sometimes, though, I think it's knowing more about the situation is helpful here. And I don't think all reporters do. And that's what Harry and Meghan like. But like, you can't say, well, you know, why are Catherine and William's children perfectly safe and why aren't yours? I mean, he would just say, oh, but they get that security. It's like, but what about Zara's kids and, you know, Eugenie and Beatrice? What makes them so different from you?
There's only so much that I can say because of the redaction process and the national security matters at hand. But
I think it's funny that he goes national security matters, as if he's, you know, a national security issue. He's like, he's really not. He's really not.
Everything, because in beginning of 2020, I was scored the highest as far as risk was concerned, and then overnight I was reduced to the lowest.
So this is a point of contention for him. He mentions this, I believe, several times, is that I was considered the highest risk. I was the highest risk. And then they demoted me, but overnight. But the thing is, he demoted himself. Harry, you demoted yourself. You decided to do this. And he could not, like, it was completely and utterly stupid of him to think, and his wife as well, to think they could do this and not suffer any repercussions. Like this, like how did you think this was not going to bite you in the tuchus? But he's not terribly bright. And Meghan knew that. Meghan's always known that. That's part of the attraction, I think, for her, is that he's a little dim. And so she had him agree to do this. And they just saw, you know, she just saw, and he just thought, well, we could just do this and nothing bad will happen. It'll be perfectly fine. But the thing is, when it comes to all this, is that this was not like the fix he was like thinking it was. And when you change your status, going from a working royal, which means by extension you represent the British government, to no longer doing that and being on your own, yeah, they're going to change your status, because they're like, well, you're no longer the face of the British government. You're no longer the face of the monarchy. You're doing your own thing. So your risk by comparison must, and like probably should, be downgraded, because you're no longer associated with that incredibly risky institution, which is the monarchy. There's like a certain level of risk if you are within the monarchy or working with the monarchy because of that. But because he left, by extension, his security risk diminished too. So I think that's just like, he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. And I really honestly do think that some of it was just self-created. Self-created. So we do have Fire Elemental. Thank you so much for the super chat. Morning, perfect pair. Harry probably damaged from his mom's bulimia. Meghan probably damaged from mom's drug use. In my opinion, marriage made in heaven. So I don't really, I know I saw some of the interview with Samantha Markle on, Dan was showing it to me a couple of weeks ago with Lady C. I don't think any of us can say for sure what happened with Meghan's mom while she was pregnant. We just have the stories. Honestly, I don't believe the Markle side or the Markle side. I don't believe really all of what any of them are saying, to be quite honest. I think they all are kind of twisting things sometimes to benefit themselves. Just my opinion. But when it comes to Harry, actually, his mom was suffering from bulimia more actually when William was pregnant, not Harry. So actually, by extension, you should think William is more damaged than Harry. Because actually, at the time that Diana was pregnant with Harry, she was actually much healthier, and her and Charles were like in a honeymoon phase. Like, it was one of the best times of their marriage when she was pregnant with Harry around that time. So she was at her healthiest. She was actually at her least healthiest when she was pregnant with William. So that's just something important to keep in mind as well. So again, M. Hugen Land says, the sister of our Queen Beatrix, the mother of current King Willem Alexander, visited New York till her death without any problem. Her kids still live there, I think. So no problems at all. Exactly. There's no problems. And yeah, like if there's a level of risk, and Harry goes into the fact that there are some private individuals with a level of risk, and they do get some security. But the huge question is, what was part of what they did that resulted in a level of security? Are they running from the government of Iran, China, North Korea, Russia? Those people who are dissidents of their country, who have been helpful, or people who have shared, information about another country and did so at great risk, or about a crime or something like that. Yeah, they'll get a level of security because they have put themselves at risk. Harry's risk here is nothing. He didn't risk anything. He just decided I wanted to make money more than I wanted to serve my family. And so I don't understand why. Again, he wants all of us to pay for that. I find it very obnoxious.
Without actually going through the risk management board. So one does question how that is even possible.
Because you left. Like he just like doesn't seem. One has to wonder, how is that even possible? I could tell you, Harry, you left and they were like looking at this bill going, we can't pay for this. We can't send our guys out there. It's like one thing to send their guys out there for a month or two, but to send them out there for years away from their families, forcing their families to relocate, all these sorts of things was something the British government could not do. Like, this was, again, Captain Obvious. This was Captain Obvious. So, but he's just, you just like, you have those little, on like cartoon shows, you have those little, or like, you can get them those little like fake hammers. You just like kind of want to bop him on the head a little bit and going, dude, like, think about this. Like, really think about this. Put on your big boy brain, kind of get out of yourself. But like, they're so stuck in their own bubble, he can't see the tree through the trees. Like, yeah. Kelly Wynn, thank you so much for the super chat. I love RNN. I haven't found any other channel that covers all royals in such an intellectual and non-biased way. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. I am so glad that you enjoy what we do here. Because I really do try, although, I mean, I have my bias. I never hide it. But I really do try to see things from other people's perspective too. Even if I disagree with it, I do try to see it from all sides. So really do try to do that. Thank you so much, Kelly. So glad you enjoy the channel. And we have Chris. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for the super chat. In 6 years, Prince George will be 18. Harry, you are no longer the spare, but are progressing downwards on the chain of succession. Madeline got security only on official functions in the US. Yes, that 100% makes sense. She did a couple of official functions in the US as a member of the Swedish monarchy, which I thought was great, that she was there living in the US, totally mostly like inconspicuous. And then a couple of times, because she had a good relationship with her family, could go and like, hey, can you go? There's some Swedish astronauts going off to space or doing an event at Cape Canaveral in Florida. Can you go? Sure, I can go. And she would go hang out with them. It was so great. And Harry and Meghan could have had that type of role. And I love Madeline too. I think when she talked about it in the interview, we just totally need to get into it and watch that whole thing too. I'll do a reaction video to that. But she talks about and it's in English, so you don't have to worry. If you're worrying like, I don't know Swedish, it's okay. It's actually a German interviewer. So there is German spoken, but Madeline speaks English. So kind of helpful. Anyways, but she talks about like how like when the family decided to, kind of downsize and really focus on her sister and her family, Madeline's like, okay, let me just figure out something else to do. And she's working with her husband on this new skincare line. Can't wait to try it out myself. And so I just love that. She's just like, well, I have a passion for something. Let me figure it out. My husband's in finance, so he can help me figure things out. And they have their own little business going. And I think that's great because the thing is, you can't help if you're born royal. You can't. So of course your name is going to help you get your foot in the door. That's just life. Like I don't like get angry at royals for getting their foot in the door. Like what else are they supposed to do? They were born a princess. Madeline was actually born the daughter of a king. She can't help that. And so like I can't help that. My eyes are bad. And I need contacts. Like there's certain things that you can't help. And so I think Madeline does a great job here by like just taking this kind of change in her life and just going, okay, let me figure out something else to do. And I think she did it really well. So always bravo to Madeline. Very, very well worth. All right. Francois says, exactly, Harry isn't even the spare anymore. His argument, he is the son of the king, is irrelevant. He's so far down the line now. Yeah, and he'll just get pushed further and further down. And so the thing is, he'll continue to get more and more irrelevant as time goes on. And that's just, he's always feared that. And that's always all like, and he's just, again, sped up the inevitable. Creative Chaosify says there is a limited number of highly trained Met police and they are very valuable. None of them want to fetch Madame's latte. So true. So true. Yeah. Allison says the NYPD escorting the escort to Broadway show was disgusting. It was just a little ridiculous. And again, the thing is, Harry and Meghan, sort of like Diana did, wanted to they want to put on a show and get a bunch of attention and then get mad when the attention doesn't leave when they wanted to. It's just like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Debbie says, why is Meghan stuck in the 1990s? I don't know. All right, let's continue watching Harry's interview here.
And also the motive behind that at the time. And that was in 2020. And as hard as it is to appreciate or understand why the decision was made the way that it was in 2020, the hardest thing for me has been the fix of that.
Like he's trying to say that there's a conspiracy or a fix. No, you left. And the family decided to go a different direction. Like this is not what he's making it out to be. Barry Elemental, thank you so much again for the super chat. Sorry, Brittany. I think Harry's biggest threat is Meghan. Yeah, she will, if they divorce, like it'll be the nastiest divorce. It'll be nasty. He'll rule the day. Like he'll think this was easy, which is quite sad. And we have 8ball the cat says, hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think the Home Secretary or Prime Minister can do anything for Harry? Just got here. Sorry. It was asked. No, it hasn't been asked yet. And it's a good question. Like that's what Harry's advocating for at this point. It seems like he's sort of abandoned the court and is like appealing now directly to the Home Secretary. Again, Home Secretary and Prime Minister, as if they don't have better things to do. Like this just reeks of ridiculous levels of hubris. It just really does. And I don't think it's attractive. And I just don't think anybody wants to do this. Like, and everybody's like, and they look to the monarchy and the monarchy's moving on. The monarchy has bigger fish to fry. And they're like, we have to actually focus on people who are actually helpful. This guy is just wants to complain all day and just says, oh, I can't bring my family. Well, that's on you, Harry. Like if your personal drama, like you want your father to drop everything and come all the way out to California just to see you. Like your father is king. Like you have to bend the knee. And this is just not what Harry wants to do. And Kiwi and Sunshine says, Royal News Network, the Freedom Flight. Yeah, he was really excited about it a couple of years ago. Now, not so much. Not so much. Yeah. My kind of mind says their safety is serious, though. What other fish to fry? Like, security of the country, crime, murder, those sorts of things are more important than a bratty prince whining that he's not getting what he wants. So that's that. All right.
That decision for the last 5 years. The fact that I still haven't had a risk management board assessment done for me over the last 5 years.
Because it's a waste of money, Harry. You don't live there. You don't live there. Again, he just doesn't seem to get it. He just doesn't seem to get it. It's really sad.
Everybody else within this group of people get it at the minimum once a year.
You're not in the group anymore, Harry. You voluntarily left. I just don't understand how he doesn't get it. It makes him seem really dumb.
So again, I would not have taken this far if I didn't have compelling evidence of facts that.
But I think this is more feelings, Harry, and grievances, and the facts and feelings don't matter, or feelings and grievances don't matter when it comes to legal issues. You just don't have a case. It was an extraordinary decision that Ravik was able to make because of the extraordinary decision you made. You were the catalyst. You started this. I still don't understand how he doesn't totally get that. I just don't understand. Oh, Stephen Magnus, who's been a member for 3 months. Harry's ego has a severe case of butthurt. Yeah, it's true. He's butthurt. He's really butthurt about all of this. And that's so much of the reason why of everything. And I find it very grating, to be quite honest. Very grating.
That reveal why the decision was made. And I'm sitting here today talking to you where, we've lost the appeal, but the other side have won in keeping me unsafe.
No, they haven't. They won because you had no legal argument. He's trying again to play on the heartstrings of people, and it will work for some, but this is just dumb. Like, you can't expect everybody to bend over backwards because you regret the stupid decision you made. Like, why is everybody paying for his level of stupid? Like, nobody should have to pay for that. Nobody should have to pay for that. But he just seems to think we all want to pay for that. Like, no.
So again, there's a lot of question marks that a lot of people will have. I have all of the truth.
No, really that he thinks that we're all this invested in it, again, shows a level of hubris here. It's kind of an insane level of hubris when you think about it, that he just doesn't seem to get where we all are like, we all have things that are more concerning to us in the day than Harry's stupid security situation. All right, Kristen, thank you so much for the super chat. Harry is airing all of Diana's negative qualities to a new generation. Do you think he's realizing he's potentially hurting Diana's legacy? Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting question for sure. Like, the more he compares himself to Diana, I think the more damage he does to himself, to be quite honest. And it was a totally different time period. Like, between the 90s and now, things have changed radically in the social media and media space. Because of social media, in fact, media has changed quite a bit. There are, like, the roaming bands of paparazzi are not as prevalent as they used to be because celebrities take pictures of themselves and air it. And also, as well, you got to think, because of the advent of social media, we know a lot more about celebrities now, and we like them a lot less than we did 10, 15 years ago. So there's been so many changes in the media landscape, and Harry's just acting like it's the late 1990s, early 2000s, and just things have moved on. But that doesn't mean that, yeah, there won't be photographers interested in getting your picture. And if you are like running around Manhattan trying to outrun the paparazzi for like no reason, you just obviously will attract negative attention. And it's just so obvious. And I think when it comes to Diana's legacy, like, I do think he damages it. I don't think he's helping himself, especially the comparisons to Diana. It's just, they're not the same. They're not the same at all. But he just doesn't see that anymore. So
I have all of the knowledge now throughout the legal process. I've uncovered my worst fears. And
What are his worst fears? I'm not even sure if he says it or not.
to now know today, based on this judgment, that there was no legal framework that constrains the decisions of this body, Ravek, of which the royal household sit on. And I didn't know that until this legal process in 2021. One of the
So he's complaining that, oh, his worst fears are realized that there was no legal process or no legal things when it comes to Ravik. And the thing is, when it comes to Ravik, it was a body that is designed to determine who gets security and who doesn't. And Harry, again, caused the change. They didn't arbitrarily do it for no reason. Harry left. And so they're looking at this going, this is going to cost a lot of money. He no longer works for the institution. So we have no legal recourse to say that we are obligated to pay for this anymore. And Harry allowed that change to happen. And so he's going, well, there's no legal yada, yada, yada. It's like, but you also had the choice to stay. You also had the choice to stay. All right. And we have Chelsea Kinnan. Thank you so much for the super chat there from Australia. The monarchy can't remove titles without government, but I think they can stop them being hereditary, like the current Duke of Edinburgh. I think Harry has been reminded. Yeah, I think there's a way to get in there and start really. I mean, one of the things a monarchy could do that's so easy is just take him and his wife off the website. Take Andrew off too. Why are they on there? There's no reason for the Harry and Meghan to be on there, and they should just take him off. Like, I think part of the problem is that Harry and Meghan do have these deluded fantasies of half in, half out, because the monarchy has not made the full steps to really severing things. And I get it. Charles wants to allow Harry to have a route back, but Harry's made his choice and he will have to grovel. Harry should have to grovel to get back in some people's good graces. And so you can start by simply making the message clear. You are not part of this anymore by simply taking him off the website. And also, it does require government to remove the titles, but I firmly believe that until Charles gives somebody like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge from behind the scenes, nothing will move. I think it has to come in a way from Charles to get the process really started. That's my personal opinion. Not that he can actually make it like happen in that way, but he can come over to this idea and go, hey, this needs to happen. This needs to happen for the future of the monarchy, for the future of the country. We need to have them removed from the line of succession and their titles removed. Can you please begin the process? I will back you. Because I don't think the government will do it without, because of the family dynamics and stuff, I don't think the government will do it without Charles telling them in some way or some form, I'm okay with doing this. And until Charles does that, we will get the same ridiculousness. But thank you so much, Chelsea. So let's keep going here in this absolutely insane.
first things my
interview.
lawyer said to me was, as disclosure started, or as this process started, she turned around and said, did you know that the royal household sat on Ravek? And my jaw hit the floor.
Why? It would make sense. They're part of determining who gets security. Why wouldn't they be on it? Like, again, my jaw was on the floor. Like, why was this a big surprise? I don't understand.
Well, I want to ask you about that
Because I think what he wants to insinuate is that his family had much more to do with it, or his father could have much more to do with it. But again, the royal household has to be there. It's like having a consultant on the board. They like have to know. Yeah, Lou says, why did his jaw hit the floor? It was common knowledge. Yeah, it's like it's called royal and VIP or something security. It's like that. Like it should be fairly obvious. Somebody from the royal household would be sitting on it. Like that's like that should be Captain Obvious. But we have him
because the king's private secretary sits on Ravik now.
Sir Clive Alderton, yeah.
Do you wish
And
your
another person as well, but yes.
Do you wish your father had intervened, despite how that may have looked?
So this is a good question, and of course he answers it, and not great.
I've never asked him to intervene. I've asked him to step out of the way and let the experts do their job.
The thing though, Harry, is the experts are doing their job. And how can he step away? He has nothing to do with it. Like, it's so crazy, guys. I mean, this is honestly quite insane. It's like, well, he should just step out of the way. He wasn't in the way. He's not in the way. He's not on there dictating to Clive what to do. Like, they're looking at this pragmatically. Harry's looking at this emotionally. They're looking at it pragmatically. And I'm a very pragmatic person. So I'm a very like logical person. And so that's why sometimes things online drive me crazy, because it's like I just want to logic people, and people just logic doesn't work with a lot of people. So I'm just like, I just had to give up my logic side, which just wants to logic the situation. It's like there's just a logic here you can follow. That's good. And you just don't want to, and like whatever. But Harry just doesn't want to follow the logic here. And so it's just Alice Ransom Raves says, member for 21 months. Hi, Brittany. Do you think Harry will ever be happy? At this point, no. Until I think he'll live with a life. He'll live with a lot of regret. He'll live with a lot of regret. You know, whether it's less time with his grandparents, less time with his father, how he raised his kids, his wife, whatever. He'll live with a lot of regret. I think he'll live probably a pretty miserable life for the rest of his life, to be quite honest. I don't think he'll ever be fully happy. I think because his wife is never fully happy. I think she has a bits where she's sort of kind of happy and then gets really miserable and nasty. And they will struggle with money. They will struggle with the fact that she's not as famous as she wants to be. Like, there'll be so many struggles in his life. And I don't think he'll ever truly be happy, to be quite honest. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat. The monarchy can remove the HRH with letters patent. Parliament needs to use the 1917 Deprivation of Title Act to remove Harry's dukedom. Yeah. So they can, they can't remove remove the HRH. That makes sense. Yes. So HRH could be removed with letters patent, and then Parliament needs to use 1917. Yeah, I agree with that. So it's like, to me, if you voluntarily leave in the way Harry and Meghan do, live in a foreign country permanently, you should basically lose everything at the door. So titles, HRH, everything. And I think this again spurns on this conversation that Harry thinks we're all going to be obsessed with his security. No, we're all obsessed with why he's still whining about it. That's what people are obsessed with. And I think, again, this plays poorly for him. I don't understand how, after multiple interviews, that he doesn't understand that people are sick of him. I don't understand that, how all of this has never, ever played well for him and his wife at this point. The more they talk to the press, the less things they accomplish. Like, think about it. And the less respect they have. This does them no favors at the end of the day, except for, they have people who are on their side, but they're already on their side. So it's like, what does this matter? So we do also have here Disfan says, hate to say it, but I think when it comes to Diana's legacy, we only start caring about the Waleses 14 to 15 years later. It's sad what has come of this. Yes. So I think that's true when it comes to Diana's legacy. It's kind of complicated for sure. And I think it'll take, it really will have to come to Catherine William in the long run, seeing the effects and the good things that we have from the Wales' family to see, good versus Harry and Meghan's bad. So Pippa Jean, thank you so much for the super chat. Off topic, has Harry always spoken with a strained, gravelly voice, or this is his version of Meghan's Valley Girl vocal fry? I don't know enough to say for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he changes something. He actually changes a word here from pronouncing it more the British way to more the American way. So that's sort of interesting. If we catch it here, we'll see. And it could definitely be, though, that he's speaking with a strained vocal fry, trying to sound emotional. But I imagine he is emotional because, he's not dealing with a full deck here, and he really thought this would go his way. So he's, a little butthurt. Again, like Steven said, he's butthurt that it's not getting what he wants. And so, yeah, it's just definitely he could be speaking with a different style of voice. I don't know enough to say for sure, to be quite honest. I don't think it's too different, but I'm not sure either. My kind of mind says her business just sold out in 45 minutes. They are good. And they seem very happy. Not just how this is playing out with their family. Yeah, 45 minutes means nothing. It depends on how much stock she had. That's the thing that she doesn't reveal, is she has never revealed how much stock she had, because it actually is more impressive to say, I had 5,000 of each unit and all of them sold out in 45 minutes. It's less impressive to say I only had 250 of each unit and sold out in 45 minutes. That means nothing. So I don't think we know much about how much stock Meghan actually had. So it makes her sort of accomplishment mostly worthless. Because again, compared to how much you have and how much time makes a huge difference. If you had a small stock, yeah, it'll sell out in 45 minutes. If you had a huge stock and it sells out in 45 minutes, that's impressive. Really, honestly, I don't think it's that impressive for her to be, again, fully honest. It took me one time, I think more like 48 hours to sell out my first batch of Recollections May Vary shirts. But guys, the channel was much smaller then. I had made them myself. I only had 100. So, and guys, will have some merch coming. I did a huge order of various things for the first collection, which would be Recollections May Vary. So that'll be coming soon. Seba says Harry and Meghan are repeating Wallace and David. Yeah, it's not a particularly flattering look at two people, to be quite honest. They do themselves again no favors. Water says, Brittany, we need R&M merch. Yes, I'm working on it. So I'm working on it. So I'm really trying to do it well. Fire Elemental says, Brittany, I so respect the way you handle the squad comments. You are welcome. You are welcome. Everybody is welcome here, unless you're really, really rude or being crazy. Then you go. But if you say respectful things and you're just a fan of Harry and Meghan, I'm not here to tell you to do something else. You can do whatever you want, but just be kind and respectful. That's all I ask. And that goes for all sides. Diana, thank you so much for the super chat. Wanting Charles to influence the UK government is asking for corruption. No, and Harry wants his dad to go and do that. Yeah, exactly. If Charles intervened in any sort of a way, this would be hugely detrimental to his reign as monarch. And it should not be done. There's no way in heck it should be done. There's just no benefit to him. It's I think really important that he doesn't do it. So let's keep going. We might not even finish this, guys, but we'll see.
This Rabbit committee is an expert committee full of professionals, plus the royal household. And
the royal household is a professional, Harry. They are a professional.
royal household don't have any role in that, on the Rabbit committee, other than the helping influence the decisions based on members of the royal family.
Yeah, because that's their job, is to represent the royal family, Harry. This is not hard. I don't understand why he finds this so complicated. This is so easy to understand. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it.
And 5 years later, every single visit that I do back to the UK has to go through the royal household. My representative on the Rabbit committee, still to this day, is the royal household.
Yeah, because you are a member of the royal household, as you claim and want to claim to be. So yeah, Harry, you have to go through them, because they have to determine and go, okay, this is the resources we have. This is what we've heard. These are the family members we have doing X, Y, and Z. This is not hard stuff to understand, guys.
That is not a decision that I choose.
Yeah, because you're not in charge. This is taxpayer money, Harry. He sounds so, I hate to say it, but dumb. He really does.
Forced to go through the royal household.
Yeah, because that's why they even should care about you, is because of the royal household, buddy. That's the only reason why. It's the only reason why.
Except that they are putting my best interests forward.
They're not putting Harry's best interest forward, to be quite honest. They're putting the monarchy's best interest forwards, and then seeing where Harry fits in with that. That's how they have to do it. They can't, again, not everything can be around him. They have a bigger job
during these conversations and the deliberations. So no, I haven't asked my father to intervene. The whole point of a risk management board, which, as I said, everybody else gets, but
you don't get it because you don't live there anymore. You don't live there anymore. You don't work for them anymore. This is how it goes. This is how it goes. Oh, mine. Now Harry sounds dumb. I have to go. If he is dumb now, he is kind of dumb in this situation. When you know the details, when you know how the real world works, he does not sound particularly smart here. He's framing things in a smart, he's trying to sound intelligent, but when you really think about it, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. He believes it, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So, Dr. M, thank you so much for the super chat, said many in the US don't understand the scope of what Harry is asking for and believe he's being denied security when he goes to UK. Do you think he'll appeal? At this point, he really doesn't have any route forward. It sounds to me like he is not appealing. He is not appealing. And because, like, even the Supreme Court can just go no. At this point, he's gone through most of what he can do. The Supreme Court is a long shot. And at this point, he's accrued, guys, probably close to $1.5 million in legal fees that he's going to have to pay both for what he has paid his lawyers for and for the opposition side too. So he's going to have to pay the government bills on this issue. So you have a situation where he is going to have to pay a whole crap ton of money for this. And I'm sure his wife ain't going to be too happy about the waste of time and money on this case. So it's not a particularly good look for him, and I think he just would continue to lose, to be quite honest. So I don't think he'll appeal, but he is appealing to the Home Office and the Prime Minister, as if, again, everybody is so concerned about this. That's the thing, that he just genuinely thinks we're all really concerned about this. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. Let's keep going here.
They haven't, never been given since back end of 2019 was the last one that I was given.
Okay, when you were still working Royal, Harry, you're no longer working Royal. Again, this is not that hard.
The whole point of that is to have a board and a risk assessment, a separate board from RAVEC that considers all of the facts and all the circumstances.
So he wants like a separate tribunal board for himself to evaluate security? No, nobody wants to waste their time with this, Harry. Like, no. Oh my gosh, guys. Oh my goodness here. This poor man. Nah, he's just going to be miserable, man.
It is a system and an assessment that is designed to be non-biased and to avoid interference.
It's that is RAVEC. That is already RAVEC. They heard from people who were experts in the field and they just happen to disagree with you. That doesn't mean they're not a professional board, Harry. That just means that they didn't agree with you.
What I know throughout this legal process is the interference that was created came from the royal household. And the RAVEC chair at the time,
So I think what happened was, and again, this is Captain Obvious for anybody who's left a job, is that once Harry left, they're just sitting there going, okay, we have to rethink how Harry fits within this royal role. That's what they were doing. They were rethinking what that means. And they just had to come to conclusion, hey, because the government's going to ask him, what do you guys think? Where do you guys think Harry stands now? And the government and the royal household's like, well, he's not working royal anymore. Like we don't really have a role for him anymore. He's left. So they had to consult with them. Like this idea that Harry wants like this separate tribunal, like they have to deal with the experts, which is a royal household, Harry. They are the experts in the royal household. Oh my goodness. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for this super chat. 28 days notice, that's what hurts Harry's. Yes, he doesn't want to do the 28 days notice. He wants every time he flies into the UK to be met with a team of guys with guns to protect him. That's what he wants, and that's what he's not going to get. He can't do it. He just can't do it. It's non-functional. It cannot function that way. He just can't.
I believe I can talk about because he's no longer there, Sir Richard Mottram. The first thing he did, or the first people that he went to go and see, was the royal household.
Yes! Because he had to ask them what to do. Like, there was no, again, Harry, if you wanted this to go your way, negotiate. Don't just lay out a series of demands and think you'll get everything you want. Negotiate your exit. That's what smart people do when they leave a job. They negotiate. They don't just make demands and leave and expect everything to go their way. Like they had to ask. They had to figure this out. This is not hard. Oh, this drives me nuts.
At the palace. So whether it's the media or whether it's anybody else that claims that the royal household and my father and my family don't have any decision-making capabilities on RAVEC, well, then what's their role? They're not experts. What's their role on that?
to advise, to share what their thought process is when it comes to the royals, who to protect, who not to. Like, they do it in coordination with the royal household, Harry. That's probably how Beatrice and Eugenie were stripped of their security. Come on now.
And Sir Richard Mottram emailed back in January of 2020 that an RMB would be necessary before taking my security away. After his visit to the palace, that RMB that was planned was abandoned.
So yeah, they were just like, he's left. Like, don't waste your, I mean, I'm sure they said, don't waste your time on it. Just don't waste your time on it. He's not coming back. He's made his decision. And the monarchy has to think too, how does it look to expend money on somebody who has left very publicly? And so, yeah, they consulted in the palace, is like, honestly, we don't really care either way. And the government's like, okay, we'll do it this way.
In favor of alternative governance measures.
What the court decided today was that they were justified for 4 reasons to not have that review. And a major part of that is because you're no longer a working royal.
Yep. That's right. That's right. That's right.
A change in your status. Do you not accept that from the court?
That is a good question. It's like, you changed your status. So yeah. But then his response is, again, reveals that he just doesn't totally get the situation.
Well, my status.
So that's the thing where he
changed.
changes it. Did you guys see it? You guys catch it? Hold on.
Accept that from the court?
Well, my status.
So is he really trying to, so he's like trying to adopt American ways of speaking. So it's like, if he's trying to do that, then like just say status instead of status. Like just be British. And like switching to American just, again, re-emphasizes that he's decided this new like world and role. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Missy says, my family is going on holiday, but not to check in with the palace, not telling your locations, lodging, itinerary, but we want security in those countries to pay for it. Yeah, exactly. This is just all sorts of levels of dumb. It just doesn't get it at all.
Hasn't changed. It can't change.
It did change though, Harry. You are no longer a working royal. You went from a working royal to a non-working royal. That is a status change. Yes, the fact that you are royal has not changed, but that can be changed for you, maybe one day. But because you are royal doesn't mean that you automatically get security. That does not happen with every single member of your family. That's the difference.
I'm who I am. I am part of what I'm part of, and I can never escape that.
You can't escape it, but decisions can be made for you to make that much more difficult for you to claim. So you can just go, hey, no more place in the line of succession, no more titles. Oh my gosh, it's all fixed. So yeah, he just doesn't seem to think that.
My circumstances will always be the same. But with a specific answer to the question, there are comparisons that exist.
Again, this is a thing where he's going, it is so hard because he's saying, well, comparisons exist, but we can't really see the comparison. So how do we know they exist, or how do we know that they are actual good comparisons? That's pretty critical.
And again, I have to be careful what I say, but I think it would be quite shocking for the British public and the public at large to understand or know that, in fact, many people do know this.
So it'd be shocking for many people to know because they don't know this, but many people do know this. So which is it, Harry? Which is it? Which is it? You're not even sure. You're not even sure. Meef says, Harry, go to an undisclosed location and stay there. Yeah, I think people would be happy with that. Again, he can make those decisions. So my kind of mind says, could you imagine if William and Kate was no security, if they stepped down for her health reasons to live a normal life? No, they will still provide security. If they step down and remove him, like if William relinquishes the throne, yeah, he probably maybe would not need a big security apparatus, but he is still the heir to the throne. So your argument really doesn't merit anything. So anyways, just saying. All right, let's keep going.
That people who leave public office receive lifetime protection.
Because they make big decisions. You cut ribbons and played video games in a war zone. That's what you did. There's a difference. There's a difference.
Regardless of whether there are threats or risks to them. So for me, with a whole list of risks and threats that were known about in 2020 and that have only increased over time, including the Al-Qaeda threat that was published and talked about recently.
I think that's entirely BS. Why in the world would they give him two thoughts? I mean, they got to think he's like a beta male dominated by his wife. Why would they care? Like, that's like nothing to them. Just
completely disregarded, thrown away, ignored, because for me, security was made conditional on having that official role.
yeah. That's how it works, Harry. That's how it works. That's how it works. That's how it works for the rest of your family. You are not special. You are not special in this circumstance. It works the same for other members of your family. And yeah, like Beatrice and Eugenie, they did not have any official sort of royal worlds, but they did work. They did kind of do a bit on, like, they did like a kind of a foreign event in Germany at one point. And that was when their dad was really pushing for them to have royal roles. And so it's possible. So Lee Foster asked, why don't these journalists push back on his answers? They just spout rubbish. Honestly, I don't think he chooses people who don't know enough to ask the tough questions. That's the thing. They don't want that security. Yeah. So just to let you know, a non-working royal and a working royal is still royal. So that doesn't mean they get security. Works that way for all the royal families. A lot of people have titles without security. That's how it works. That's how it works. Just because you have a title doesn't mean diddly squat when it comes to security. It's about your place in the line of succession. All monarchies are hierarchies. The higher you are to the line of succession, the more important you are. Harry will be diminished down to below 10 before too long. Just give it a couple of decades. He will be off the cliff into oblivion. That's how royalty works. It's just 6 years until George turns 18. When he turns 18, and then, in 10 years or so, he gets married, and then he starts having kids. Harry will just go down and down and down and down. And then if all three of the royals' kids have kids, Harry will be out of the top 10 in the line of succession easily. So that's how this works. That's how this works. It's not that hard. How it's worked for everyone for a long time. Important to know. Not all royals with titles get security. They only get it for official big events like the coronation, Trooping the Color, those sorts of things.
That role that everybody knows, that myself and my wife wish to carry on.
So he's saying his wife and him wish to carry on the royal roles, but you left and you didn't negotiate, and they said no. They didn't want what you wanted. So you gotta move on. You gotta move on at this point, Harry. You just gotta move on.
Was stopped from being able to do that.
Because they didn't want you. You decided to leave. They couldn't trust you. And they didn't trust your wife. They didn't trust her like your wife. And so they're like, we can't trust them to abide by the rules that we set down. I mean, they don't even abide by the rules they set down now. So, like, why could you trust them? That's the thing. Harry doesn't understand either. Nobody trusts him and his wife.
Back in 2020.
What do you say to those who ask, why should the taxpayer pay for your police security if you have your own private security?
So that's a good question. And then she adds a couple questions and he's like, oh, you got to separate the questions. I can't answer them all at once.
Where are the gaps there? What's your response to those who say you're getting police protection on a case-by-case basis?
I tell you, why don't you ask that question again, but in 3 parts?
Well, you can answer it in 3 parts, Harry. If she can ask the question in 3 parts, you can answer the question in 3 parts. And if you get through one of the questions and can't remember the rest, ask her and she'll repeat it for you. This is kind of like, you almost feel like he can't hold that much information in his brain at one time. But this is important because he's trying to, again, play on people who don't know enough to call him out on his BS.
If you could, because you just put 3 very, very important questions together.
Sure.
And I cannot possibly answer all 3 of them at the same time.
Yes, you can. You answer them in 3 different sections, Harry. Again, this makes him sound a little dumb. Just telling you right now. He could go, well, I'll answer the first question and then we'll go on, and then, kind of, if you could remind me of the next ones or something, that would make sense. But he can't answer them all together. He just doesn't want to because it doesn't fit his narrative.
Sure. What do you say to those who ask why the UK taxpayer should pay for police security. You have your own private security.
So, and what he does here, if I remember correctly, is he does not say, I'm going to pay for it myself. He doesn't say that. He wants people to pay for it for him. All right, Mac Sauce, thank you so much for the super chat. If they wanted to live a quiet life, fine. It's the fantasy of celebrity with no contribution that's supposed to be funded by the public. Gross. Exactly. They want to live the life of celebrities, but be treated like royalty and have security like the full-time working royals. And that's not sustainable. That's not attainable. That was just fantasy from the beginning. It was just absolute fantasy. So doesn't work. Doesn't work at all.
Well, first off, private security can only do so much. Again, I can't go into the details of that, but I think most people will be able to work that out. One of the major things is they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country or in any country. They don't have any jurisdiction.
So they don't have any jurisdiction. And again, he didn't say, like he said before, I will fully pay for any cost to the government. He doesn't say that here. He wants the government to pay.
Police protection is effective protection, which is what my grandmother made very clear that we needed.
And I hate to say it though, Harry, she has passed away now. So she can say what she wants, but she didn't control the government. She didn't control what decisions Ravik made. They would take what she said into consideration, but they have bigger obligations than to appease a grandmother who wants to coddle her grandson. Just say it again.
With regard to the taxpayer part of it, I don't need to go into detail of how much the royal family costs or how much protection costs. Or
again, Harry, you could say right here to your benefit that I was going to pay for it, but obviously you never intended to pay for it. So that was a complete and utter lie that you told the public initially. So, and what it's paid for the royals and security really has nothing to do with you because you are totally different. They are paid because they fulfill a specific role and function. And then other family members are protected at big events because there's so much attention on the monarchy. It behooves them to cover everyone. But that's not the case here.
what I will say is that some of the British tabloid press did a very good job in campaigning to have our security removed by quoting figures such as £20 million.
That was probably for his wedding. That's not the same thing. But it would, be millions of pounds, Harry. It would be millions of pounds, especially because they would have to pay for relocation. They would have to pay for a variety of things regarding this. Like that he thinks that this is just free and that we're all anxious to pay for this is just insanity to me.
Right. And through this disclosure process, I've seen constituents in the UK write to their MP saying, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for Meghan and Harry's security at this cost. They're literally quoting headlines from British.
How does he know they're wrong? But still, they don't want to pay, Harry. Regardless of the cost, they don't want to pay for you. Nobody wants to pay for your spoiled butt to have security whenever you want it. Nobody wants to pay for that. Nobody. I don't want to pay for it here in the United States. Nobody in the UK wants to pay for that. Nobody wants to pay for it. Nobody wants to pay for you.
British newspapers. Those figures are obviously grossly exaggerated by about 18, 19 times. And further to that.
But it still costs money, Harry. That's the problem. It still costs money. Nobody wants to pay for that.
If you know that other people are being protected, people that have made a choice for public office.
Yeah, because they made a choice for public office. They were actually making global and national decisions that impact people. He was not. He was cutting ribbons and playing Game Boy.
Then why wouldn't you be comfortable, happy with someone in my position who's given 35 years service to his country?
You guys hear that? Like, why don't you want to pay for me? You should just want to pay for me. Why wouldn't you want to pay for me? I'm lovely. Like, seriously, guys, can you believe the hubris there? Like, the hubris there, guys, is insane. The hubris is insane. Oh, of course you want to pay for me. I'm just like a politician. I've given 35 years of my life here. Oh my gosh. Okay. I might have to screenshot this because this is actually a pretty good little screenshot right here. So Anyways, guys, just may have to do that real quick. But it's like the like 35 years of service. So, when he was like a toddler toddling around, that was service. Like, so like that was part of your life. You weren't really serving until you were in your 20s. Like, let's be real here. You weren't really serving until you were in your 20s. Yes, you did some royal engagements, but this 35 years of service is ridiculous. And you were cutting ribbons. You were cutting ribbons, Harry. That's not the same as being a politician. Like, seriously. Wow. Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice says, how long do you think it would take to send Harry home if President Trump was told he had to pay $2 million a year for Harry and Meghan's security? Yeah, he would be home on the next plane. Trump would go, no, absolutely not. I'm not wasting money on this. Nobody wants to waste money on this, Harry. Nobody wants to waste money on this. Oh, it's like, I feel like that quote should go around so much more because like the level of hubris there is insane. And it gets a little better too.
2 tours of Afghanistan.
I've done 2 tours of Afghanistan. What? But that doesn't qualify you for security, Harry. A lot of men have done, and the women too, have done 2 tours of Afghanistan. Try again. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. And you were there in a bunker playing Xbox.
And the threats and risks to my life, I was born into this position. I was born into those risks. And
so were a lot of other people here, your cousins, they were all born into it. Your niece and nephews, you don't seem to care about them too much, or your brother. It's all about you. That's the thing. It's all about him. If he could come at this with a level of humility, he might have a better shot. But this is just filled with unbelievable levels of hubris.
They've only increased over time, along with my marriage to Meghan, and the
An interesting thing here, guys. I thought this was very interesting because she says they call each other H&M all the time. He calls her Meghan here. He doesn't call her Meg, or he doesn't call her M. He calls her Meghan. Very interesting. Very interesting choice of word there, because she just got done on an interview saying that I call him H all the time. He calls me M, and then he's not doing it. So again, it raises interesting questions.
the frenzy across media, mainstream media and social media that created.
So but that's not a neat, like that doesn't result always in a level of security. Yeah, there's a lot of noise on social media and media, Harry. That doesn't always mean anything. It's just noise.
So, and I guess on top of that as well, probably what people don't know, but that is mentioned in the judgment today, RAVEC protect private citizens.
Yeah, because sometimes private citizens, they've given testimony in cases, they have taken great risks to share intelligence or something like that. There are reasons that they have it. He's just a wild, whiny, spoiled brat. Like, that's what he is.
I was made a private citizen by the royal household, not by RAVEC, by the royal household.
Yeah, because you decided that. You decided that. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why this is so hard for him to understand.
I can't be a private citizen.
Yes, you are now, Harry. You are a private citizen. You could live privately, get a ranch in Texas, don't do anything with the media, and yeah, people will forget about you at some point. That's not what he wants. He still wants royalty and all the trappings of it, all the trappings of celebrity and other responsibilities.
I will never be seen as a private citizen. I will never be treated as a private citizen.
That is your choice. You could have a choice to serve as a private citizen. You don't want to do that. That's the problem.
Not by the media, not by most people, and certainly not by anybody that wants to harm me or my wife or our kids.
I really don't think there's that much level of interest in harming their family. I don't want anything bad to happen to their family. I don't think anybody does, but I just don't think that there is this grave risk out there. I just really don't think so.
So I think once people realize or understand that there are private citizens who have never played any role in public office and never will play any public role.
So like, again, he's just so trying to like just bend over backwards. And it's like, but we don't know their circumstances. If I heard their circumstances, I might go, yeah, they played a very important role in X, Y, and Z. They deserve security. I would like, there are people who I would probably agree to on that. So, but I don't know who those people are. So his argument is moot. It's moot because I don't know enough to actually make his argument work.
That because they are high risk, they are protected at taxpayers' expense, and rightly so, because it will affect not only with that person, could they end up in hospital or worse.
I mean, probably because they are dissidents from foreign countries. I would imagine that's it.
UK soil, but it comes down to impact, and it comes down to the reputational impact of the UK if that person or those people are injured on UK soil.
So if you listen to his argument here, he says because of all these things that would happen on UK soil, it would look bad for the UK. I understand that argument. But here the thing is that goes same for him. Nobody wants anything bad to happen to him and his family. So if there is a legitimate risk, yeah, they will provide security for him. But we don't have that yet. And so because of that, he doesn't get it. And so his argument, yeah, Harry, I agree. Nobody in the UK wants anything bad to happen to you. And so, yeah, if there's a risk, let them know. And in 28 days, they'll figure out if there's an actual, thing to go over. And if there isn't, there isn't. It's just that simple. All right, we have Peggy Spungen and been a member for 20 months. No politics in this comments, but Harry would be dojified if the US had to pay for their security. Exactly. As soon as, Elon Musk or Donald Trump heard that, the US is paying for his security, he's like, oh, no, get your butt on the next plane, buddy. Again, nobody wants to pay for this. I keep saying that because it's true. It's true that he thinks we all want to pay for this is just insane to me.
But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
It doesn't. You left, Harry. You left. We don't care. And again, it doesn't matter for me. It doesn't matter for me. Like the level of whining is insane.
And just to be absolutely clear, what is the difference between the top level security you say you should have and the security you are given on this case-by-case basis?
That's a good question.
When you go
so the details of the security I can't talk about. All I will say is that the last R&B assessment that I was given, I scored the highest. The only person within the family that scored anywhere near that was my grandmother. Overnight, I was reduced to the lowest.
Because you left. Again, just having to reiterate that because she doesn't know enough. Because she could just say, well, isn't that because you decided to leave? And so because of that, they decided that, you made that decision. Like, do you regret making this decision? Those would be some good follow-up questions to ask here.
This case-by-case basis has been used by Ravek and also by large sections of the British press to say, well, what's the big problem?
I mean, it's true. He gets it on a case-by-case basis. It's fine.
You're given something on a case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, that case-by-case basis is separated by the reason for my visit. Sorry, just to give you more context on that.
So this is where he kind of explains that there's a different interest, but I mean, different levels, but this applies to big events mostly, because most of the time they're like, you're fine. You're fine.
It's not really a case-by-case basis. It's an either or. If you're invited to the UK by your family, then we will give you security. If you come for any other reason, then you will get a very...
So he's saying if you're invited by your family, but here's the thing. I don't think this is true. I don't think this is fully true. What I think he's talking about is if he's invited for big events like Trooping the Color, like the coronation, then he will get security. But if he's invited, let's say, to go hang out with, let's say, Eugenie, he won't, because that's not a state level event. That's not bringing a lot of attention. So if it's an official invitation from the coronation or for a wedding or like trooping, Jubilee, something like that, that is different than what he gets for most of the time. So that's the idea that if, let's say William invites Harry and Meghan over for a couple of weeks in the summer, that would still be on the case-by-case basis because it's not an official engagement. He should specify this, but of course he doesn't, because again, he's trying to twist things to serve himself.
Very low amount of security. I'm not going to confirm what that is, but it is completely insufficient And
Well, you've been here plenty of times, Harry. You've been to the UK plenty of times, and you've been just fine. So I imagine it's just fine. Like, yeah, one time a camera guy chased you. Oh, scary.
somewhere along the line, people have talked about the fact that it really, all it is someone on the end of a phone. So, no matter how much private security I have around me, there's only so much that I can do and operate and function within the UK when it comes to.
Again, because he wants the motorcades. He wants what he had when he was a working royal, and he left that life and he wants it back. And I think part of the thing too is that his wife tells him, well, I won't go back to Harry to the UK without this level of security. And so he's just trying desperately to get it because he doesn't want to go back. But the reality is his wife doesn't want to go back. So we have Lou Ann Patton who gave a super chat saying that private citizen he's talking about is Taylor Swift, who had a verified risk against her. He makes me want to scream, "You left, dummy." I get it. And yes, so when it comes to Taylor Swift, there was a actual terrorist threat against her concerts in Austria to the point where they had to actually cancel them. And so she did, I think, secondary ones in the UK, but because of that risk in Austria, they were very concerned about terrorist risks. And obviously, you had this situation in Manchester several years ago at the Ariana Grande concert with the bombing there. And so, because of that, there's an actual risk. He's not that level. Like, really, I've commented on royals, so obviously I consider Harry and Meghan quite a bit, but most average people don't. Like, this idea, again, that we're all sitting around here thinking about Harry is insane. We're not Harry. We're not.
Supporting my charities, visiting my friends, all of these things.
You have friends, Harry? I'm not sure if you have friends left, to be quite honest. I don't know what friends. I doubt there are very many.
So, I've been treated very, very, very differently to everybody else that exists.
No, you haven't. There's no way you can be treated very, very differently to everyone else that exists in all of humanity. Like, that's insane. That's insane. We have Makel says, Cliff Notes version, Harry is spoiled, narcissistic, but not very bright. No, I would agree with all that. He's not very bright. He's not very bright. No, he's not. No, he's not. I can't imagine being friends with him. Like, he would be a nightmare to be friends with.
Examples that exist, past, present, I have been singled out.
I've been singled out. But you also made an extraordinary decision, Harry. That's the thing. That you caused yourself to be singled out. Again, this is cause and effect. He made a decision which caused a reaction which changed things.
You've spoken very openly about the fact that you think you've been punished for leaving the monarchy. Who specifically do you think is trying to punish you?
So, I mean, I would say this is a good question, but like the thing too for Harry is, he'll spin something some way, but it's like there was going to be consequences to that decision. This is called cause and effect. It's not punishment. It's cause and effect. You made a decision which caused a reaction, which you didn't like, but you can't really complain about it now because you made the decision.
I don't think that anymore. Now I know that it was, security was used as leverage. And I think what really worries me more than anything else about today's decision.
So, I mean, I imagine it was, but not really at the same time. They just had to say, well, you left. If you want this, you have to stay. That's not leverage. That's just trying to tell the guy reality. If you leave, there's nothing we can do in this particular situation. So you made the decision. So if you make this decision, there are these consequences. Again, I think they're just telling him decision consequences, not punishment, not like whatever else like Machiavellian thing he's trying to think of. No, they're just telling him, oh, you made this decision. Like, we're sorry, but if you make X decision, we have to make Y decision. It's like, this is like basic, business being employed 101. If you make X decision, your employer might make Y decision. You can't help that. You made X decision. You made X decision, let's say, to be late for an entire month. You were 15 minutes late every day. And so your company has to say, well, you can make that decision. We can also make a decision. This idea here he has, I think everybody should just bow to his whims and ideas is just absolute insanity. Again, just crazy talk here.
Depending on, what happens next, is that it's set a new precedent. that security can be used to control members of the family. And effectively what it does is imprison other members of the family from being able to, choose a different life.
Harry, I just want to tell you this right now. Other members of the family are not as stupid as you are, to be honest. And I think, like we saw with Princess Madeline, I think you can make an argument for stepping away and doing it respectfully with, good intentions where everybody can come to a similar conclusion. That can be done. You decide not to do it that way, and you have to suffer with the consequences of your stupid decisions. That's it. That's it. It's not any more difficult than that, Harry.
If for me security is conditional on having an official role, one that both myself and my wife wished to carry on, but then was rejected, not by Ravek, was rejected by the royal household.
Yeah, because they couldn't do the half in, half out thing. It was too risky. They decided not to do it. They decided not to do it. Azima says, it's so true. South Park episode should be based on this interview. I agree. I 100% agree. And then Martia says he needs to learn to move on. He does. And then we have Sharon S says this isn't an apology. It really isn't. It really isn't. All right. And we do have Jane and Kelly here. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jane, this morning. Good morning, everyone. Another embarrassment for the Markles. They just wanted IPP status. It's 100% correct. They just want IPP status. Like, he is clear as day here. He never wanted to pay. His offer to pay was completely hollow. He wants people to pay. He thinks we all want to pay for him. It's just, man, he's just not going to let this go. And it's not going to play well for him. He comes across as an arrogant, egotistical brat. And when the world is burning, or when the economy is bad and people are struggling and stuff like that, does he really think anybody gives two craps about his whining about his security? No, they don't. They really don't. It's just absolutely insane.
And the result to that is you lose your security. That basically says that you can't live outside of their control.
Well, they might decide, yeah, I don't want to live with security, Harry. This obsession is yours and yours alone. Other people might just go, yeah, I understand. I completely understand. This is your deluded fantasy that you can just do whatever you want and not suffer the consequences.
If you want to be safe.
But you can be safe. You can live on a ranch in Texas or Montana, not hang out with anybody too much, and you would probably be perfectly safe, to be honest.
But it was a pretty hard decision there. And I think if you strip away all the noise of everything that's been said by other people and all the noise that's been created around this, if you strip that all away, I think what people will hear is that the only thing that I've been asking for throughout this whole process is safety.
No, we see a deluded, arrogant, egotistical brat who doesn't like to be told no. We're not stupid, Harry. Like, it's weird because it's like, I feel like he thinks we're all stupid. We're not stupid, Harry. We see through all this. Yeah. Laner said, I bet Princess Anne would like to slap him upside the head. I think we would all like to slap him upside the head a little bit, just to be like, kind of just let him know this does not work. This just does not work. Wendy says, please keep creepy people like Harry and his horrible wife out of Montana. Shay says, why is he living in California? What we hear is a whining baby. Yeah, exactly. Cesaria says, you were just paranoid. Yeah, just paranoid. Plenty of people, wealthy celebrities, live perfectly normal lives. And he's just the one deciding he doesn't want to do it.
Both when I was when I was part of the institution and when we left. And the important piece here, Neda, is, for me and my wife.
And nobody cares what your wife thinks, Harry. We all know she doesn't want you to have any of this. She doesn't want to go back to the UK. We all know this.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how much I can say, but I can never leave the royal family.
You did, though. You did leave the royal family. And you can renounce your title and place in line of succession. And a lot of this risk goes away. You just don't want to do that. You want to cling desperately to it. And because you didn't get your way. And that's all. And your wife wants to lord it over her wealthy friends.
That is my family. That is my larger family. I left
It's a lot of other people's family too, and they're not whining and complaining about security, Harry.
the institution because at the end of the day, I had to. I didn't leave it in 2020. I left it in 2021. But security was removed in 2020.
No, they basically were giving you an opportunity to change your mind, and they were like, well, they've left, so we can't change, we can't keep the security while they're, kind of trying to find themselves. So we have to take it. Like, this is, again, should so be writing on the wall.
Speaking of your family, your father is ill with cancer. Will you continue to visit him alone without the family? Where does this leave things moving forward, the ability of your children to see their grandfather?
This is a good question. And Harry, again, is cruel for lording this, you could say, over his father and not going along with allowing his father to see the kids and just keeping them away under this like security umbrella thing that he claims to have.
Life is a precious thing. And I'm acutely aware of the fragility of that.
And I don't know if you are, Harry, because it seems to be all you're obsessed with is yourself.
I can only come to the UK safely if I'm invited.
Well, you have been invited and then didn't bring your family, Harry. So which is it? You were invited for the coronation. You could have brought your family and had them protected under the security apparatus, and you decided not to. Which is it? You can't have it both ways. Be honest. Your wife doesn't want to come, and she doesn't want you to bring the kids. Be honest.
And, there is a lot of control and ability in my father's hands.
There's really not, Harry. There's really not, without him looking like he's interfering in government issues. Like he can't say anything. Like, stop saying this. Stop saying this. Stop putting things in your father's mouth to benefit yourself.
Ultimately, this whole thing could be resolved through him.
No, it couldn't. It couldn't. It's like, stop saying that, Harry. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Not necessarily by intervening, but by stepping aside, allowing the experts to do what is necessary and to carry out an RMB. That said, this all was initiated under a previous government.
So now he's going, well, I need the new government, which has a lot bigger fish to fry, to focus on me. Focus on me and my wife.
And there is now a new government. I have had it described to me, once people knew about the facts, that this is an good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up.
He needs to talk to other people. He doesn't need to, like, his wife claimed to be his sounding board. And so it's like, Harry, like, they're like, well, when it's described to people, they call it an old-fashioned shakedown. And I'm like, or stitch up or something. I'm like, Harry, you're not talking to normal people. Normal people probably would just tell you this is what happens when you do certain things. Pippa Gina, thank you so much for the super chat, said left in 2021, but meddled in our elections in 2020. Exactly. And again, they're looking at the cost of this abroad security, and they're like, no, we just can't do this. We can't waste taxpayer money on satisfying the needs and whims of a bratty prince. It's a terrible look for everyone to indulge his whims. It's a terrible look.
And that's what it feels like.
So should Keir Starmer step in?
I think that, based on the judgment that the court has put out today, it clearly states that RAVEC aren't constrained by law.
So they are constrained by law, but they can act in exceptional circumstances, and this is an exceptional circumstance. Harry created the exceptional circumstance that allowed his security to be stripped, and now he's whining about it.
Again, I wish somebody had said that from the beginning. If they're not constrained by law, then this decision was made by the royal prerogative, which means that on national security matters,
National security matters. Harry, you are not in a national security matter. Again, he's like, if you don't know like the broader picture, he's conflating all these disparate things and, grabbing national security. Oh, if you don't protect me, it's a national security issue. It's really not.
Case, which the other side have used national security exclusions and excuses to withhold certain information from me, restrict me from being able to speak about certain things to the public.
Yeah, because it's a national security issue. Like, he's so dim. I'm sorry, but he comes across as dim here. I don't know why he thinks this is going to help him. Like, if you were, a Harry and Meghan stan, you'll eat this up. But if you have any connection to the real things going on behind the scenes, like, this is just crazy talk.
That this national security matter is not bound by any law, and that Ravek can abandon the very processes, the very expert processes that exist to protect individuals.
Because you left. You created the extraordinary circumstance. Again, this is all cause and effect. Like, cause and effect is a mystery to him. He doesn't understand why decision A results in reaction B.
And the people around them, as well as the decision makers themselves, from liability if anything should happen. So, I would ask the Prime Minister to step in.
Again, like, he doesn't have better things to do. This is like so dumb. It's so
I would ask
so bad.
Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, to look at this very, very carefully, and I would ask her to review Ravek and its members, because if it is an expert body, then what is the royal household's role there?
To give them information about the royals. It's not that hard, Harry. It just didn't work for you. This is the issue. It just didn't work for him. That's why he's mad.
It isn't to influence and decide what they want for the members of their household.
Yeah, they can decide what they want for members of their household. That's their prerogative. They can decide, hey, we don't want to, like, this was always going to happen to Harry. Like, I think he's just, again, mad that the thing happened to him. All right, we have Stephen Magnus says Harry flew to Ukraine and was perfectly safe. Yes, because they gave him the security he wanted. They gave him the full security apparatus that he wanted. And that's why he was safe. Or it could be that nobody cares. That could also be the case. And I think that would be the bigger blow to the egos, to find out that he's really, like, there's nobody really gunning for him and that he's really obsolete. Again, complaining people online like me, like, I just want to call him out on his hypocrisy. That's all I want to do.
Do you want the court battle to continue? Do you want to try to see this get to the Supreme Court?
I don't want any battles to continue. There is way too much suffering and way too much conflict in the world. This
is so dumb. He but he's lost the battle, so he's just like, he has to give up.
At the heart of it is a family dispute, and it makes me really, really.
No, it's not, Harry. It's not a family dispute. Again, this is complicated because a family, yes, has a role in the government, very minimal role, but does have a role. It represents it in a broader sense, and so it can kind of be moved to the this is an interesting question. Nush says King Charles make or bestow the title of princess to Catherine. I mean, maybe he could. I don't think he will. In the British system, largely women only reflect the titles of their husbands. They don't hold any in their own right. That's sort of how it works in the British system. But anyways, when it comes to this whole situation with Harry, it's like, it's not high on the government list of priorities, and the royals have a very minimal role in government, and they cannot be seen to overly interfere. So they have to step back. This is not a family dispute. This is a simple case of somebody decided to do stupid thing A, and so we have to do reaction B in order to minimize the damage.
It's sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later, where a decision that was made, most likely, in fact, I know, to keep us under the roof.
No, it was made because they were like, okay, if you want to do this, this is going to be the natural consequence of that. You decided to do this. This was your fault. All of this is your fault. Stop blaming everybody else. It's so obnoxious.
But then once they realized that wasn't going to work, once they realized that, myself, my wife, and our kids are happier outside of the institution.
I don't think he's happier. I think he's even more miserable, to be honest.
Then please just look at the facts.
They looked at the facts, Harry. They did not agree with you. They didn't agree with you. Nobody agrees with you.
The risks. Look at the threat. Look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, if anything was to happen to them.
Then have your children spend some time with their grandfather, Harry. I'm sorry, but this is not pulling at the heartstrings when you are purposely keeping the kids away. If there is a risk, give 28 days notice. If there is a risk, things will be made. Or you can go and spend the whole time in Buckingham Palace. And then your father comes there for work, or you can be driven to Clarence's house, and all of this could be arranged. You don't want to do it. That's the difference. You don't want to do it unless you can control it. But you are a low on the totem pole and you can't get your way. I'm so sorry.
Them, look where the responsibility lies. You know, so you know there's a duty of care that has been completely thrown out the window, and that doesn't feel great.
But that's because that's what you want. That's not what everybody else wants here. So gosh, guys, I don't think we'll get done with the interview. Let's just do a smidge more.
You know, whether we agree or disagree, and there's a lot we agree on, there's a lot that we disagree on. But that aside, where is the duty of care? Because, as I said, life is precious.
But you don't seem to think it when it comes to your grandfather, your father, your grandmother, like everything. You didn't seem to care when they were sick, and you knew they were sick. You didn't seem to care then. Why do you care now?
And it is very clear that from 2020, because I was no longer allowed an official role, and because I decided to remove myself eventually from the institution, that my life got devalued from the highest score to the lowest score.
They didn't devalue your life, Harry. They devalued your contribution. Your contribution evaporated when you left. And so they decided that because your contribution to the greater system, the reason they paid for security in the first place disappeared. They just had to decide, hey, like, we can't afford to pay for it. It wasn't a devaluing of life. It was devaluing of his purpose in the institution, the reason they had his security for him. So let's see if we can, let's make the playback a little faster and see if that, I should have done that from the beginning.
Overnight.
And how does that make you feel, given you have expressed numerous times that you do not want history to repeat itself?
Another Diana question. All right, guys. Oh man, okay, we'll listen to this last one and then we'll have to wrap it up because I do have lunch plans, guys. I was hoping to get through this, but it didn't quite work. But let's listen to a little bit of this here because his obsession with thinking that the same thing will happen to his wife as happened to his mom is just insane.
Yeah, I don't want history to repeat itself. I think there's a lot of other people out there, and the majority, they also don't want history to repeat itself. Through the disclosure process, I've discovered that some people want history to repeat itself, which is
I imagine those are crazy people, Harry, not like everyone, but I imagine it's not. And you got to wonder too, though, what is he talking about? Like what happened to Diana or something else? Fairy Princess says, anyone notice how he actually looks dimmer too? He does a little bit. He does. Kendra says, he never shows any concern for anyone but yourself. What the heck? Your dad has cancer. Exactly. And this is so true. Vicky says, unfortunately, Diana was killed by a drunk driver. That is 100% correct. She wasn't killed by the press. The press contributed, but she was killed by a drunk driver. And it wasn't even the British press. It was the French press, but he blames the British press. So this guy has no connection to reality. Starzina says, your paranoia blows my mind. Yeah, I agree. Harry's paranoia it's mind-blowing. Gretchen the First says, if this interview had a drinking game, many people would have died by now. Probably. How many times he mentions I. Carol says as well, Diana's situation was that she gave up security. Diana didn't buckle up and behind the drunk driver. Exactly. She didn't buckle up. She might be alive today if she had been wearing a seatbelt, as Vicky says. Yeah. Through the Looking Glass channel with Alice says, history is repeating. Duke and Duchess of Windsor, Prince Andrew, Princess Margaret, it all happens to all the spares. Yeah, I think I would argue that the Swedes are one of the exceptions. We'll have to see. I think the Danes might be an exception too. But yeah, it happens with all the spares. I think Fairy Princess says, is he really this ignorant? I think he is. I think he is. I think he lives in a bubble, which does not help. And he lives with a wife who I think increases his delusions and paranoia. And I also think his security probably does it too, because he pays them. they'll pay him more. So yeah. So we'll just listen to this last little bit here.
It's pretty dark.
That's quite a statement. Who do you think that is?
I'm not going to share at this point. I know all the names of the people that were involved in this process. And again, you have to.
So he's blaming the people involved in the process there. He's blaming the people involved in the process. Wow. So that's pretty crazy. Pippa Jean says, to be fair to Harry, thank you so much for the super chat. I think he's truly blindsided and doesn't understand. He doesn't think we're dumb. He's just so stupid that he can't comprehend the existence of a smarter person. Yeah, that's probably true too. That's probably true too, guys, that he just can't seem to fathom what is actually going on here. He just can't seem to fathom it. And so it's just not great. It's just so not great. And so he just can't seem to understand. Like I think was blindsided because he just didn't think his actions had consequences. Like I was raised by a firm disciplinarian, and I will say, guys, loving disciplinarian, because discipline is good. It's a good thing for children to have discipline. And like I understood that actions had consequences, that an action A could have a reaction B. So this idea Harry has here that he's just blindsided. Like he just doesn't seem to understand at all that his decisions resulted in particular responses. And he just can't seem to accept that. He just can't seem to accept that. He just seems to think that we all just like that there's this grand conspiracy. And he's basically blaming too that there's courtiers in the palace that want something bad to him, which is no, that is 100% Harry, not the case. That has never, ever been the case. But there are people who just want to tell him, hey, you have made a decision. And as a result of the decision you made, we also have to make a decision. We also have to make a decision. It's not a decision you're going to particularly like, but it's going to be that one. Hold on. Real quick, guys. Because I'm supposed to meet somebody for lunch, and let's see if we can push it back. And let's see how much more. How much more time do we have left here? Good 9 minutes. It's going to be too long. Okay, guys, we will go ahead and wrap it up here. I know we didn't get to some things. I will keep this here though, guys, right here. And I may do like a follow-up reaction to the last half of this because I think it's so good to go over the rest of it and just finish it up here. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We do have a DS here who gave a super chat real quick and just said, this is a novel in the works. I fear a sad ending. Me too. Me too. I don't think this ends particularly well for Harry, to be quite honest. I don't think this ends well for Harry. So it's just sad. It's just sad. Mon says, no, don't go. So yeah, I was hoping we would finish up, but we didn't, but I will finish this up in a separate video because I think it's so important. And so we will get the rest of this. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed it. We had a big crowd today. So more to come, guys, on this because this is definitely worth exploring. So guys, thank you so much again and have a wonderful Saturday. Let me show you my smiling face. Maybe you want to see it, maybe you don't. Anyway, either way, guys, have a wonderful